Good morning. Figured I'd make a short little video today, kind of to talk about System Against the Bear. I am the bear. Now, I just kind of wanted to give it kind of just a little backstory to how this book came about and how God inspired me to write it and when, and the time that we were in then and the time that we're in now. Now, I wrote this book almost 3.5 years ago, in 2017. Let me see, yeah, it was 2017. And we were faced with with the same issues that we're still faced with, that we were faced with well before then, that we're faced with at the time, and that we're still faced with. And that's systematic racism in so many different forms and fashions. System Against the Bear, I Am the Bear, is just one of many instances where, as a black man, we are subjected to issues in the situation, in our situations in our system that others are not, and what that looks like in regards to dealing with police and our interactions with the culture along with the legal system. Now, in saying that, it's a short story for parents and grandparents to read to and with their children and grandchildren, in order to open up a conversation that we can have with them about systematic racism and what it is, why it is, why it's still here, and what we need to do to fix it. Because these are the generations that inevitably will be the ones who fix it. I mean, if we're looking for the simple fix, we're always looking for the fix. Well, the fix is, first and foremost, we have to be educated. We have to know what it is that's broke, how it got broke. It was built broke, and that's why it's System Against the Bear, because the system was designed and operates actually exactly like it was designed to operate as. So actually, it's not broke. The system is exactly what it was designed to be. And so what we have to understand is the system is literally designed against me. As a black man, I had to come to that realization. I had to understand, it's not about, oh, woe is me. I'm a man. I don't worry about woe is me. I don't, go around crying and whining about, oh, they out to get me. They out to get me. They out to get me. Because God has created me. God holds me, carries me, and keeps me. So I know that, but I did not realize that I walked with a heightened level of stress my entire life that most others don't have to walk with, because just by virtue of me being born a black man. And when I kept seeing and continued seeing all of the injustice of how the system continuously kills the black man, and in my own personal experiences, which are probably too many to count, but in this book it describes, System Against the Bear, I Am the Bear, released out into the wild at 16. Well, now, that goes back to when I was 16, and I was accosted by a police officer in my own neighborhood just for walking from my sister's house to my house on a nice sunny day, for no reason other than the fact that he could. I did nothing wrong. I was not in the wrong place at the wrong time. I was in the right place and doing the right thing, and I was still accosted time and time again. This, that, the other. This, that, and the other. There's been many issues. And I'm far from perfect. There was times when I try to do my little, raising up, trying to, do my little, act out part, and I got right back in line, every time I would, which wasn't that many times. But the reality of it is it didn't take for the police to get me back in line. It took for me and the discernment and the wisdom that God has granted me and the conviction of the Holy Spirit to get me back in line. But the reality of it is the policemen in America, the policeman and the black man are not typically a great mixture. Now, there's a lot of dynamics to that, and of course there's a lot of, there's always an exception. There's many exceptions. There's many, black men that are policemen, and I've had great conversations with many of them. I mean, I've had great conversations with many white policemen. But the reality of it is I've had far more interactions that were not pleasant with police officers, just based upon the fact of how they felt about me. And when I walked into a room, and it still occurs, as a black man. So System Against the Bear is just the beginning of a series of books that are going to start to kind of peel back and open up the conversations about systematic racism. Because like I said, this is just one example. This is just one example in our system, in our country, in our culture of the systematic racism. And that's where I really want to focus on more of than just one individual industry at a time. Because here's the reality: we have a complete system in every facet, from the highest to the lowest, from the corporate sector to the government sector. In every single facet where systematic racism is pervasive in this country. And even around the world, but I'm just really focused on the United States right now in this conversation and in my book series, because it's so egregious that we have to really make it a point to start having these conversations, and then have these conversations with our children and our grandchildren now. And in order to affect the change that, what has to happen is not going to happen overnight, because we didn't get here overnight. This is 400 years in the making. 400 years in the making. And, now it's time for no more. But like I said, just keep in mind, I wrote this book 3.5 years ago for a reason. Because we were faced then with the onslaught of black men being killed at the hands of police officers. Not to mention now the black man's life is in jeopardy in multiple ways. And this is back to the systemic racial issues, because if it's not one thing, it's another. Now our lives, we hit all kind of high risk health categories of different issues that can prematurely end our lives, whether it's the conditions that we live in, that we're raised in, or the conditions that we find ourselves in just by virtue of being a black man in the world. There's so many different factors that come into what causes us to not live long. I've got list upon list upon list of just black men that I know that have died prematurely. Be it through violence, be it through, major health issues from just living life as it was given to them, by no means, egregiously, just running around to, eating all the bad food, but just eating what's available, eating what you're raised eating, living what you're raised, doing, in environments, unhealthy environments. And it's disproportionate. There we go. That's the phrase. Disproportionate to the rest of the American citizens, that of the black man. And I mean that specifically. And I drill down on that specifically because there are a lot of factors that prematurely end our lives. And I'm going to address those continuously and more as this book series continues, because we have to have these conversations with our children. And I thank God for this book, because he inspired me to write something. Mind you, I've never written a book before. I've never even contemplated writing a book. I never even intended to write a book. When I sat and wrote it, I wrote it in one night, and I've edited it several times since then, but I wrote it in one night just because I had to get my thoughts on paper of how I felt. And I'm like, I just want to, tell this story, I wrote it with the intention of, writing this story for my, to open up a conversation with my grandchildren about systematic racism and have that conversation. So that was the inspiration behind why I wrote the book. But now it's available for everybody to read, and I really want you, order you a copy. Go to foodbytheword.com, order you a copy today. It's only $1. You can, it's a digital download file. You can order it. Download it on your phone, read it right now. Boom. Read it. I suggest you read it first, then read it to your children and grandchildren. In a time that you set aside to, really engage with them, because I want you to engage with them. This is not something just to read and go out and play. No, this is something to engage with them and hear from them, because I guarantee you they hear and see way more than you can even think, and I guarantee you they got a point of view already ready for you as soon as you get through reading it to them and with them that you're going to need to hear and want to hear to engage in this conversation with. So I encourage you, go to foodbytheword.com. I'll put the link out with this video, and just hit the link, download your copy, read it and share it with your family. God bless you. Talk to you later.